I think it's a good context to set for to call the next speaker. I want to invite Walid to the platform here. I don't think I'm the right person to introduce him to the audience here. I'm sure he will introduce himself, but he's been one of the guiding forces behind with Thomas and some of the other people who've set this platform for us. So Walid, for you, and I'm sure people would like to hear what is going to drive this nothing less than 20 to 30% growth.
Thank you. So, good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank Indigen for this invitation. And just introducing myself, my name is Walid Kattouha. I'm heading Novartis Pharma for the Middle East. And you know, Middle East has different definition for different countries. For us, Middle East is all the Middle East countries plus Iran, you know, so Egypt, Saudi, Gulf, Levant, and Iran. I'm a pharmacist in background. I'm in Novartis for the last 14 years. So I was in different positions, I was in oncology for a while, and then was in Basel, managing Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and now back to the Middle East a couple of years back, managing Novartis Pharma. Just in order not to raise your expectations, I'm coming here just to shed some light on what is the challenges just mentioned by Bob and how it will reflect to our region. Where are we positioned in the definition of emerging markets? Why Middle East is important right now? And then I will open some questions, you know, because I don't have the answer. So I'm coming here to raise some questions, and then I'm expecting that, you know, with the discussion, we might come with some solutions. So I was just want to share with you one point, because some people say that the Middle East is a risky area. And for me, I was just coming from I had a discussion with one of the macroeconomic professors, and then he put that there is a big difference between uncertainty and risk. So I have realized that we are not operating in a very risky area, rather an uncertain area, because for risk, at least you can quantify what is the risk. What we have around us here, we don't quantify. We don't know what will happen. No one knows that last year there will be the Arab Spring and how this will impact us. Many questions will come, do you think this is positive or negative? Really, I don't have the answer, because I can give you two different answers, and both of them can be justified. So what I'm trying to talk about is the pharma challenge, which, everyone is feeling it in different way maybe, but at least we are feeling some of it. I will talk about the emerging market, and then we'll go a little bit how the Middle East is positioned in the emerging market, and talk one question, why is the Middle East today? I will show you some data that if you look to the growth, the Middle East growth will slow down compared to the last 5-6 years. So why today most of the companies are focusing on the Middle East? So what happened, despite today, if you look, there is too many uncertainties, there is a lot of political risk, there is some economical pressure, but why is the Middle East today? And then I will try to open a few questions, for discussion on how we want to operate as a company, in the coming or as an industry in the coming 5 to 10 years. Just to go, there is no doubt, I always tell to my team that maybe we are in the best industry. I don't want to be in real estate or whatever, or in banking. Maybe we are in the best region because we are in the emerging market. We are still growing. We are still adding headcount and field force and expanding. But what is, I can confirm to you, we are not in the best time. By all means, the industry it's not in the best time compared to the golden days. So there is no doubt there is major changes. There is, the R&D cost is going very high. Everyone wants to have affordable health care. And then what we can see in the last few years, the tolerability to therapeutic risk. Today, even in the Middle East, what the requirements and the sensitivity toward any adverse event from one product is very aggressive compared to before. We know that the pipeline for most of the companies cannot fill the gap of the blockbuster that are expiring. And the question, do you think when we'll have the next generation of blockbuster, if ever we will have any blockbusters in the industry? And I'm saying so because if you look to the development in the technology, the genomes, the genetic research, the biotechnology, I think the direction is toward finding some more medicine for a more specialized diseases, and maybe even for the disease that used to be a mass market primary care, we might see in the future that there will be a treatment for hypertension, but it will treat only a segment of patients. So that's, we don't know what the future will bring to us. Another important thing that the cost is, I mean, going crazy for producing one molecule, and part of it because, if we look to the last 5 years, how, the FDA approved product or EMEA is going down and down for most of the companies. But there is a lot of data that today to have one product, it's costing around $2 billion. And all the companies are trying to find a way, how can we reduce the cost? Many ideas, and we'll talk a bit about some ideas. As I mentioned that, profitability is not like before. R&D cost is going high, and then something came, that a solution, a window of hope for most of the multinational companies is the emerging markets. And that's why most of the companies now are talking, multinational companies talking about the emerging market. If you just have a look simply to few markets like India, will be like $20 billion in 2015. But also if you look to the Middle East, as I mentioned, based on the definition, but it's around $22 billion in 2015. And China will also, as we heard the data, will be maybe the #1 market 10 years down the road. The point that have been changed, the business model. Do you think that it is still applicable that all the research and the production and development of the product will be in Europe and US, and then the Asia, Middle East, all the countries will be only receiving the data and the product, finished product? I'm not sure this is how the business will be in the coming 10 or 15 years. And we start to see this. We can see it in our countries. Everyone wants to have local manufacturing. Every country wants to have the research, whatever, and we'll talk about this, more maybe in details. So again, it's everyone is hoping like 50% of the growth of the pharma sales will come from emerging markets. That's driven by what is our business is in. We are in a business because we have to redefine what we do every day and every morning when we go to job. I think we have to move from selling pills toward being a partner, a healthcare provider. And to do so, we have, our main objective is patients. So what is making the Middle East and emerging market attractive? Because there is patients. There is change in lifestyle, more chronic diseases, and this will open healthcare and business opportunities. But again, when we talk about the emerging market, even the Middle East, I don't think we can say the Middle East like in Europe or whatever. There is major difference, and every single market behave differently. So there is high diversity, there is complexity, there is uncertainty, and then that's why we need to localize our offering and tailoring our offering to match with the local situation. Let me go a little bit to the Middle East. So, some data is MENA because, there is different definition. But to talk about MENA, MENA constitute right now around 1.7 to 2% of the global pharmaceutical sales. And please put this number in mind because it will help us to understand why the Middle East today. There is a rapidly growing and aging population, which all we know. We are operating in a market where most of the population is young, but those young people will become older and older. And also there is a major growth on population. Let's take UAE as an example. I think, 10 years back, the population was not the same. And a question that I want to ask, what do you think will be Qatar in the coming 10 years? With all the investment, a question to be open. Egypt, again, the population is growing. I heard there is like 1.5 million every year. So, I mean, if you compare to some countries, in 3 years you have one Lebanon or one UAE coming to the... and all these patients will need more medicine. And you will see that there is also increase in the healthcare expenditure significantly in most of the countries. And I will show you some of the data. The question, how the Arab Spring or what we are having around us will impact this. Do you think the government will invest more in healthcare, in medicine, in hospitals, or they will reduce it, or whatever? So it's another question to be answered by our panelists. We know that the market that has the majority of the population, if you want to say Turkey, part of the Middle East, or Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Iran, those are the largest market. I think in 2015, Saudi will reach around $5.8 billion, Egypt around 4 or 4.5 or whatever. But those are the most complex countries to operate in. I mean, we know what we are facing in Egypt. We know in Saudi the story of the limitation in terms of workforce, in terms of pricing, registration. In Iran, we know the access and what we are facing right now. So there is a lot of issues coming from IP violation, price control, parallel imports, fluctuation in the economy. But again, the GCC is still offering a good opportunity because it's more stable compared to other countries. And if we look to the market will be around $8 billion for the GCC, including Saudi in 2015. And this is not small market. The good thing, I don't know if it's positive or negative, but we know that the government in the Middle East still largely or fully funding healthcare for national, and try to separate because we are operating sometimes in one country with totally different healthcare system, for locals and for expat, and to a very degree directly or indirectly subsidizing private healthcare to expat, and then we talk about how the insurance will play. But again, the uncertainty, the political unrest will continue at least for the coming 5 years. I don't think that in the coming 5 years we will see more stable countries with clear rules and regulation, low political instability, whatever. But I think so we have to understand that in the coming 5 years we have to operate in such a situation. The positive thing, it's not positive for having more patients, but I think the positive that at least we can help more patients. There is more patients that need to be helped. I think what's happening in the Middle East right now is, it's a great example of how lifestyle can change, the type of diseases in a market. So if you just look to diabetes, which is related to obesity, related to hypertension, related to many things, we know that as by the IDF, it has been increased the incidence of prevalence of diabetes in the total Middle East from 9.4 to 11.2 and expected to increase by 80% in 2030. So if I go a little bit more in detail, in UAE, 25% of the nationals, they have diabetes. If we take the patient group, because we said the population is aging, if we look to this, that around 40% of patients or people above 60, they have diabetes. I was just, some information I got yesterday. There is right now, as by 2011 data, 790,000 patients in UAE with diabetes. And they said that they are estimating around 300,000 not diagnosed. And they're expecting in 2020, this number will become 2 million patients with diabetes. And then you can take this number toward, and extrapolate to Kuwait, to other countries, and I can tell you there is no country in the Middle East not having this issue at different level. And when we talk about diabetes, we talk about all the consequences of diabetes. Just look to the cardiovascular disease. You know that healthcare expenditure on cardiovascular account around 12% of healthcare expenditure and expected to be doubled in 2025. So looking to this, what we can say, there is a lot of patients that require to be helped in different way. So just to summarize, we said that we have uncertainty. The market will be around 22 billion in 2015. Macroeconomic, we have strong population growth. We have aging population. We have high economic growth because at least for the coming 20 years, especially in oil-producing countries, we will need, there is no plan that oil will not be of importance in the coming 20 to 30 years. So this means, at least for the coming 30 years, the economy will continue to be strong. And we know that, lifestyle will impact, many patients. So if you look to the growth, they forecasted, you look to different, if you look to IMS, they are saying it's, the growth in the coming CAGR in the coming 5 years is 8 to 11%. If you look to different, sources, it's something the same. And if you look to Jordan and to Iran, they are driven, this growth, is less than the other countries because it's impacted by the generic. If we look to Saudi Arabia, it's mainly by price cut, and we'll talk about this. So the market will keep growing, 8 to 11%. You can look to this data in different way. I have looked, if you want to talk about patented drug use, there is no major change in the coming few years. You can see that generic might take part of the business, but it's not that major. So in the coming 5 years, there will be no major change that will impact this growth. If you look to the healthcare, guys, you can see that healthcare expenditure, it's a little bit less than the last 5 years, but it will continue to be high double-digit growth. And the good thing, to ask who will pay in the future, because today, if you look to the major countries, you can see that it's mainly the government, it's mainly governmental sector. What you can see, there is no major change. There is some countries that will even increase, and I can see Egypt here, and I can pretend it might be the future, the impact of the Arab Spring or the revolution for Egypt, because there will be more investment in the healthcare because people and patients will have more voice. But if you look to the other countries, there is no major changes in the 5 years. They will keep investing in healthcare. You can see that Saudi might go a little bit down, but starting from very high percentage, and this maybe reflect the implementation of certain health private insurance or price decrease or whatever. The question now, why today is the Middle East? Is the Middle East a new growth opportunity? If you look to this, without putting other countries like China, like Turkey, some European countries, you can see that it's not true. The Middle East was, for the last 5 years, was overgrowing the global market. And if you look today, to the Middle East countries, the major Middle East countries, it's really going down. It's still, at the 8, 11, but we have reached like 17 and 18 and 20 in the last 5 years. So why the Middle East today? The Middle East today, I think, I put a couple, it's mainly what's happening in Europe and US. Very simple. Before we were operating in a country where there is no clear regulation, in a market where there is no clear IP protection, a lot of political tension and instability, and the size of the business, percentage or contribution to the global sales was 1.7 to 2%. So even if you are growing by 17% compared to Europe growing by low or I may say 10% or 8%, the incremental growth is not significant. What happened today, we are seeing some European markets are really going very down, even in US. So the growth is not there. There is negative growth. Even in Turkey, which was considered, the early emerging market, it's not the case. In the coming 2 years due to the price cut, they will have a major challenge. So the incremental, the contribution of the growth will be significant now, even if the size of our business is, represent 1.72%, and it will be bigger with the drop in other market. So just to wrap up and to say, maybe this is a good question, and coming back to Bob's presentation, we are all living in negative macroeconomic environment. We cannot say that, you know, it's not impacting us, but directly or indirectly it's impacting us. When we talk about the price, it's coming. It's a domino effect. We know the impact in Saudi that will go to many countries. Some people will challenge generic will not impact us. And frankly, I don't believe in this. It might not impact us as it impacts US, but it might have impact, maybe not on volume, but it might impact our value. So when a generic is approved in US and Europe, I think it might have some impact. In addition, the generic company become extremely active in our markets now. So we are seeing companies that we never saw, or sometimes acceptance by the government and regulatory with hoping that they can reduce the price. Political unrest and the impact of the Arab Spring. I mean, we are and we were living in political unrest, but it's moving from one place to another. How this will impact our industry, you know, it's open for interpretation. I'm optimistic in my how I look to things. I think it might impact positively, because when people have more voice, patients will have also a voice, and then the government or the regulatory or whatever the payer, they don't want to add more pressure on the population that might reflect negative on the government. What is also changing, we talked about the patient. Patients are more educated. Patient now they go to the physician. They will be positive for certain disease, but also they called internet positive. So they go, they know everything about their disease, the available treatment and whatever. How this will impact the way we do business, again, this is something for discussion. Innovation and technology, that's also might impact the way we do business. And then access, we talked about formularies, PMB, whatever we will see in the future, how can we deal with this? And the point is, you have patient, you have difficulties, so there is opportunities, there is issues. The most important, how can we define and adopt the right business model? And here, you know, the big question. Because if in US we saw all of this issue, the issue, Bob, we have in our region, that things can go very fast. So what you can see in US over 5 years, it can happen here over a year, or sometimes over less than a year. So that's why I think what is challenging is a big question, and how can we define the right business model? So I said maybe I will open a few, shedding light on few points, and then really just for discussion. We are talking about the pricing. So today, all what we see in our countries, very simple approach for pricing, which is the international benchmarking. It's different from one country to another. Some countries will request 32 countries to benchmark or whatever. So what will be the future? Do you think in the future it will be more on value-based pricing? I don't know, but I can give you some, what I can see, my opinion, is I can see at least in most of the countries, they start to think about this direction. How they can implement it and when, that's what we don't know. Regulatory affair today, very simple, registered in the country of origin, EMEA, FDA, and you get the product registered. How this will be in the future? Do you think we might have in the Middle East, or at least GCC, central registration? Do you think in the future we can submit in parallel with Europe and US, and they really assess all the data and the file? That's a big question that we want to, with the development of the GFDA in Jordan or Saudi FDA and the other, things might change. And I don't think we'll be able to do business the same way we were doing 5 or 10 years back. Research and development, and this is, I think, very important topic, and then I will spend a couple of minutes talking here. Today, the population of the Middle East and North Africa represent 9% of the total global population. Do you know how much the number of patients involved in a clinical trial is? Less than 0.4%. So what's happening right now? Do you think tomorrow we'll be asked to provide health, economic, and outcome research? or they require local clinical trial to register a product. A question to be asked here, what is ongoing around us? I was reading a paper yesterday that, you know that in Qatar now, they are investing in a major research center with a company called Sidra, and it's around $3 to $5 billion investment, hoping to hire 2,000 researchers. So what those guys will do and how they will, impact our business. Any other important, Dubai Tech, or let's say what's happening in Egypt or in Saudi, King Faisal Specialty Hospital and Research Center, do you think in the future we will be obliged to run trial? And then if so, what we have to do right now? I mean, they might ask us. I think they have very good centers. We have very good clinician and researcher. All what is missing, some regulations. And these regulations, if they do it tomorrow, they might oblige us to do this. I think most of the companies, especially countries, especially small countries, they are moving from considering local manufacturing as an investment. So they start to understand that it's not enough for know-how transfer is to bring, tablets in big barrels and you put it in a blister, or bringing granules and, put it in a machine that this is technology, or adding some value to them. I think in the future they might look for research. Healthcare system and insurance is very fragmented. We are seeing that it's moving in different direction toward maybe more private insurance or national insurance system. We don't know. So how this will impact our business? We start to see small models, what happened like in Abu Dhabi now, or do you think this model will be everywhere? In Egypt, we hear since, years about the national insurance program. Do you think this will come true in the future, and how this will impact our business? Health information system, one of the big issues we face is we don't have data. No government in our countries, we talk about UAE, that or Saudi, they have the highest incidence of diabetes. In discussion with some official here in the healthcare system, they said there is no clear data showing that we are the high, it's 22% or 25 or 26. It's very sporadic and limited research in different institutions. The same applicable for most of our countries. So how this will impact us? Do you think when they do analysis, they might put some additional, I would say, regulations to limit spend, or they believe that they want to look for pushing the companies to move from selling pills toward paying for patient outcome? So that's also might change the way we are doing business. One important point is medical tourism. You know that in the Middle East, by the way, it's not a small business segment, okay? There is billions of dollars spent outside the Middle East, might be in the Middle East in the future, and we know that many countries are investing in this area. It's not Jordan, Lebanon, Saudi with the limitation, UAE, Qatar, and many other, Turkey. Today, India is attracting a lot, Singapore, Asia is attracting more patients toward more than US and Europe. And this is a big question to be asked, what will be the future? And how we want to operate in such a model. When you have a patient coming to a country, taking a medicine and moving back to his country. So how we want to serve this patient better. And I think one of the major challenge in the future, when most of the companies are investing in this region, is the talents. And today we are 2 or 3 countries in the Middle East are fueling the talent pipeline in most of the other countries. Take GCC. We know what we are facing now in Saudi. There will be more pressure on localization, and I don't think will be limited to Saudi. There is 136,000 Saudi sponsored by the government are studying outside high education between master and PhD. Those guys will come back and they are looking for a job. So how we want to operate in this model? What this implication will have in our industry. How can we, if tomorrow one of the countries said, guys, you have to get like Saudization, instead of 20 or 30%, you will get 80% Saudis. And the market is dry. So all what you need to do in order to operate is find different business model. Okay? If you look to the barriers, I think, you know, that's a chart. Don't look at it as updated because it's changed every few hours. You can see that, you know, we have in the Middle East, you can group majority of the issues between political risk, pricing, protection of domestic industry, and all of this has implication on how we want to do business in the future. The same for the IP challenge. So some countries like, I will take Iran or Syria, or maybe Iraq will move in this direction in the future, that if you want to do business, you need to have a local partner for local manufacturing. There is no way to do business without, you know, to unlock the access issue without doing local manufacturing. We can see IP, I think the future is better than today. Most of the countries now, they start to respect the WTO. Pricing is a major challenge, and I believe, you know, it will keep in the coming 4 to 5 years. Then we talk about the portfolio and multinational strategies, and I will not go in details here. But if you analyze most of the multinational companies, they are going into different directions. Some companies are really going to innovation specialty. Some companies, they are going to depend on mass market and to localize portfolio by acquiring local product or whatever. And everyone is targeting one segment from this pyramid. And there is some companies that are operating in both model. And that's, I think, it's a quite a challenging situation, because you have to have capabilities in different areas, and then you know, you have to also target different segment. So that's, I think, one important point, and how the portfolio will be in the future. How will be, if we move toward more biotechnology, more genetic treatment, more specialized treatment, how this will impact us and will bring us back to the research and development. Because today, when we are talking about diabetes, we have a lot of trials. We do most of our trials in Europe and US, but the patient in the Middle East might look a little bit different. So how to be able to serve them better, we have to understand more how they behave, and maybe do a lot of trial in our region. Another important point is, and this is also, you can change it every 1 minute, because maybe Egypt has changed right now after what happened a couple of hours back. So that's very important. You know, I think what I use in my daily work. So how to assess all the countries, because every day you have, and I want to say it like a joke. If you go to the CNN, there is one map. It's color coded. It's color coded, and then you can see that every country has different color. The big surprise that during the Arab Spring, you can see that the countries that they have no color in it, it was Iraq, Iran, and Lebanon and UAE. So those are the safe countries in our region. So you can understand how this in other countries, how it's right now. Then if you go back to the trend, I will not go so details here, but I think we have better informed patients. I think patient will pay out of pocket in some of the countries. We start to see it. There is more complex care and treatment models, demand for cures versus treatment, and that's also, you know, the expectation of the patient are high, and increase, you know, importance of the emerging markets. If we talk about the trend, we know that everyone is looking, because when you have the same, if we see what happened in US or what happened in Europe, that's we are just at the start. Because when the patient needs increase, when the bill is still to increase, the first reaction is, how can we control spending? And to control spend, the easy way for most of the government is cutting prices. we are start to see healthcare payers to establish treatment protocol. Do you think, I think in the future is more paying for performance, and also there will be more and more financial constraints. In terms of technology, what I see, and scientific, there will be more R&D and maybe more virtualized R&D. We'll see shift in research, and when I talk about Asia, is most of the emerging market, and we start to see that the Middle East and the interest of key institutions, and we start to see that there is a lot of work on establishing regulations and a lot of investment in research. Maybe, I don't know, I mean, tomorrow Sidra, the $5 billion will end up like a hospital or institution rather than a research center, but it might also end up like it could be a hub for research for the region, and many institutions in different countries. We will see remote monitoring is improving rapidly. Then for pharma, you can read this and I will share the slide with you, but I think selling pills, this model is 10 to 15 years back. If you want to be healthcare partner, we need to contribute to patients' outcome, and contribution is not only in one part of the patient journey. I think we need to be partner to the government in order to justify this bill paid by the government, starting from, even not from the diagnosis, but also before, from, I will say, prevention of the disease up to the patient or treatment adherence and compliance. So we need to be partner on every and single step. So I think the business model will be more about collaboration, and this will require maybe different business model. Today we are still a share of voice driven market. It start to move toward more, I mean, a mixed or hybrid model, but in the coming 5 years, the question, what will be the model? So what if tomorrow major institutions, they said, we will not see reps, and this is not, I mean, a dream, or we start to see it in key institutions. So just to win in the Middle East, I think there is many questions to be raised. I think we know that the disease pattern is changing in our region, and then the strategy, every company is taking different approach. Some are moving toward mainly focusing on innovative portfolio, or others, they want to, go for local portfolio or a mix. We know that there will be, the middle class is growing, and maybe we want to find different model. What will be the pricing model? Do you think we'll have more market access model focusing on high income, going deeper in the pyramid, share the program, risk sharing, or I don't know, different models? And in this region, it's still not there because the regulation does not allow. Until now, in some markets, you go to them and say, you know what, if you want to pay for results, we are willing to, in our tender regulation, give me discount. So still, it's not there, but I think in the future, they will look for this. Public sector, I think, still and will continue to be a major contributor to the business. Until now, I mean, roughly it's around 30% of the total business in the Middle East. And if I remove Egypt and some countries, especially in the Gulf, it can go up to 60 and 70%. So what will be the company strategies? This is something, discussion. Everyone will go in one direction. Some companies will focus mainly on private. Others will focus mainly on governmental and try to build partnership with the government. The question also, if the portfolio tomorrow will move toward more specialty, high-value product, I think, partnering with the government and the governmental sector will become more and more important. For local talents, I think this is a major issue. So what will be the business model in the future? If the companies are not able to develop local, or they don't want to develop local talents, they will go to, I don't know, virtual medical rep that, we can connect to the physician and do e-detailing. I don't know. That's part of the uncertainties. So just my last slide, few thought that it could be totally wrong. Managing uncertainties is clear in the Middle East. I think for any company or any one want to do business in the Middle East, he needs to understand that there is volatility, there is unpredictability, there is lack of data, there is lack of regulation that can change overnight. But again, it requires the emerging market leadership mindset. And this means that being agile, being creative, taking some risk, and ability to operate in a complex and volatile environment. That's sometimes, I mean, some people say, yeah, it's known, but I can tell you maybe in your daily work you face it with your senior management in Europe and in US. Because sometimes you come to them, you know what, I lost a tender because I have generic. It's difficult for them to understand how you don't expect, you are not able to see that there is generic risk. They cannot understand there is no regulation for the last maybe 5-6 years. I was winning this tender, so there is no reason not to win this tender. But overnight, one generic came and appeared, or at least you might win the tender, but at maybe 50% or 60% of the value. Redefining go-to-market, I don't believe in the future we will continue to be a share of voice-driven market with all what we see around us. I think we need to develop capability and prepare for the mandatory localization of talents. Commercial organization, I think we need to also do something different. Our industry is very slow in changing. I think if you look to what the industry, the way we are doing business for the last 20 years and today what we do, I mean, there is minimal changes, and I think now it's the time for a dramatic change. And the most important is the stakeholder, because the mindset of that my customer is only physician is an old hypothesis. Today, to win, you need to understand and to have, to change the customer list you have. So it's more the pharmacist, it's more the health insurance, it's more the regulatory bodies, and that's, I think, the industry, because before it was very simple. If you want to register a product, all what you have to have, this file coming from Europe or from US, you have the registration in the country of origin and done, okay? Today it's not a given. So I think, as I promised you, there is more question, more that I don't know, rather I know. And that's all my presentation. Hope I did not disappoint you with too many uncertainties and the question. Thank you very much.